Troweling down biblical archaeology for the 21st century. That's us. I'm Gary Byers. This is Dr. Stephen Collins. And we are answering questions about the excavation at Tel el-Hammam and its connection to the biblical stories of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah.
And how many weeks have we not changed clothes?
Good point. You weren't supposed to notice.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we got 4 questions left on the table. And
wow.
I don't even know which one's which.
And it doesn't really matter. We could put that one over there, and we could put that one over there. It just doesn't really matter.
Oh, don't be changing them on me.
And we didn't know what order they were going to come in because Larissa put it down, face down on the table.
Okay, so I'm going to take this one. It's the smallest one.
Okay, small question.
Small question. Turn it right side up. And we've discussed this before. Tar pits in the southern Dead Sea area.
I have heard people who like the southern Sodom idea. I have heard them say, oh, there were tar pits in the southern Dead Sea area. No, most of the tar bitumen mining throughout antiquity. And by the way, in Roman times, it was called what? What was the lake called?
Lake Asphaltus.
Asphaltitus.
Asphaltitus.
And so why did they call it Lake Asphalt? They call it Lake Asphalt because from time to time, great big chunks, sometimes little chunks, but sometimes big 6-8 feet, big floaties of hard asphalt breaks off of the geological strata deep in the Dead Sea, and they float up to the surface. In fact, you've even seen, if you look hard enough, you can see pictures of people sitting on them floating in the Dead Sea. And this stuff would float out to the margins, mostly along the north side and the east side, which is where, because you don't get this sedimentation along the shore on the east side. And you don't get it all the way down because the hills are very steep and there's no real beach. And so most of the stuff would float and it gets caught in the mud. And eventually, as the Dead Sea rises and lowers and rises and lowers, it gets buried. And so the Romans would dig big pits. This is also in Carl Morgan's dissertation. Dig big pits and mine out these chunks of asphalt. And other people did it in antiquity. Yeah. We even have evidence at Tel el-Hammam that they were mining out bitumen. We find big chunks of bitumen at Tel el-Hammam. Well, who are they selling it to? The Egyptians loved bitumen for eye paint, to stick things together, to have to process it and melt it and put other kinds of natural solvents into it. But bitumen was an important trade commodity. And so, but it's not sticky. It's not runny. It's hard as a rock. And so, and most of it is mined out of the north and west shore, and the north shore and the northeast shore in that area. And so for people to say, oh, in antiquity, all the tar pits were located in the southern Dead Sea area. Where in the world did you get that information? It's not in the geological literature. It's not anywhere. If you check out the mining of bitumen and the existence of bitumen, the fact of bitumen, it's mostly in the north. Not to speak of the fact that all the cities in the south were out of business hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before Abraham was ever born. I don't care what date you give to Abraham. We'll talk about that maybe, at some point. But you got to get Abraham in the right time frame in this early Bronze Age collection of small towns in the south of the Dead Sea is not the right time frame.
Now let's just talk about the Dead Sea for a minute. Today, the Dead Sea is much smaller. There is no longer a southern basin.
That's right.
There's the tongue, the Lisan, that sticks out from the east side. It doesn't even go all the way over. Did, as far as we know, ever went all the way over. But there was a lower basin and an upper basin. And just talk about that a little bit. The lower basin was not anywhere deep enough to get that tar floating up from down beneath. That southern basin was just much shallower. So, and then just tell us a little bit about that.
Southern basin only a few feet deep, maybe 15, 20 feet in the at the best time.
Yeah.
But most of the time, many times in antiquity it was dry. In fact, in the Roman period, the Dead Sea level was lower than today in the Roman and Byzantine period.
Yes.
That's why on the famous Sodom map, and maybe we ought to do that one of these days, on the famous Sodom map, there is no Luzon Peninsula. It's only the deep northern basin. There's no southern basin. And so the geology and topography of the southern Dead Sea area does not lend itself for the deposition and collection of these bitumen chunks. But this word tar that you're talking about here has nothing to do with bitumen anyway. It's not the word tar, it's the word mud. We've talked about that a little bit in a previous episode. It's not tar, it's mud. And so when we're talking about falling into tar pits, no. Falling into sinkholes created by the dropping levels of the Dead Sea, which happens today and happened any time in antiquity when the Dead Sea levels dropped sufficiently.
Okay, so tar pits in the southern Dead Sea area.
Nah.
Never happened.
Never happened.
Okay, so I want this one. Come on.
Oh, that one.
That's the one. Okay.
Oh, that's the key. That's the key to the world right there. This will solve all the world's problems.
Okay, well, here's what it says. Some suggest that natural gas belched out of the ground, caught on fire, and came down on the cities of the plain.
That is actually taught by some people. Have suggested it. Now, I believe in free thinking and speculating and theorizing and my thought games and all of that, thought experiments. But this was something that some even pretty good scholars came up with. Why did they come up with it? Because they somehow didn't have a mechanism, didn't have a concept of a mechanism to match the Hebrew text, which says fire came out of the sky. They were trying to think of a way that this could possibly have happened. And they're trying to give it a geological explanation. But the problem is that area around the Dead Sea does not have geologically what it takes to do something like that. In fact, go to any place, anybody live in Texas where they do oil wells, what happens when you punch out an oil well, blow out an oil well, and it sets itself on fire? And you have this huge pressure of massive natural gas deposits coming out of this hole and burning. What is it? It's a big candle. You stand next to it. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to go up. And by the way, natural gas, when it goes up, especially if it's on fire, it keeps going up and up. It doesn't ever come down. It doesn't do this. And that's what they're asking us to believe. I've talked to a few geologists. I know a lot of geologists about those sorts of things. It's just nonsense. And so sometimes Bible scholars and archaeologists who don't know much about geology and that sort of thing just kind of speculate all over the place as to how this could be possible. Well, except that's not what the text says. It is not a terrestrial event. Very clear.
Celestial.
Go to the Hebrew. Look at it. Fire and burning stone, Goprit Va'esh, came from where? Out from Yahweh, out of the heavens. Last time I checked, any place on earth where you are, the heavens are up there. It came from there. So that's very simple. Anything other than a cosmic event, and we're talking about meteoritic event, is a violation of the Hebrew text. That's what it is. Don't pretend it's something else. It's not. And so no matter what site you suggest is Sodom, if that Middle Bronze Age city, the time of Abraham, is not destroyed by a calamitous meteoritic airburst bolide event, you don't have the right city.
So, natural gas belching out of the ground, catching on fire, and come raining down on the cities of the plain wouldn't happen anywhere, let alone at the Dead Sea.
Let alone there, because the geology just doesn't lend itself to that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry. We're just going with that. And I hope you see what we're doing here. When it comes to Sodom and the cities of plain, I don't deal with speculation. Facts, facts, facts. What are the facts of the text? What are the facts of the archaeology? What are the facts, 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 facts? That's it. And I've said it many times. I said it in the beginning. I don't care if Sodom's in Central Park. I don't care if it's Las Vegas, Nevada. I don't care if it's Nairobi, Kenya, or I don't care if it's in Beijing or in Sweden. Why would I care where Sodom is located? It's not a theological issue. It's not, we looked at the biblical text raw without looking at what anybody else said. And this is how you do it. If you're going to do it, you got to do it from scratch. You look at the biblical text, you look at Genesis 13, and you go with the textual facts. The text took us to northeast of the Dead Sea. I had never heard of the city of the site of Tal Hammam. We'd never heard of the other many, many sites, dozens of them in that area. But yet, there they were. The Bible took us to that location. And in fact, somebody accused me once, Collins found that really big Bronze Age site of Tal Hammam, and now he's trying to make it into biblical Sodom. No. I didn't even know that site was there. I'd been to the northeast of the Dead Sea a gazillion times, but until I really camped on the text and went deep into the text and understood the text of Genesis 13, I never paid much attention to it. But the text led us to those sites, just like he led Thompson and Conder. William Thompson and Conder, two explorers, surveyors in the 19th century, wrote books about the location of Sodom, chapters, pieces of their books, big fat books of all their experience of exploration and survey. They were camping on top, this is in Thompson's book written in 1889, I think. He says they were camping he was camping with Conder on top of Tal El Hammam. They knew the name of it, they were on top of it. And they were looking around at this big site that they were on and looking around some of the other sites, tells in the area, and here's what Thompson said. Which of these sites is Sodom? We can't really say, but it's got to be one of these because this is exactly where the Bible takes us when you look at Genesis 13. And so back in the 19th century, in fact, if you look at most of the Bible maps produced back in the 19th century, it'll have the cities of the plain north of the Dead Sea. A lot of people don't know that. Go check it out. If you have a big family Bible, if it has maps in the back and it's printed in the 1800s, go back and look at where they put the cities of the plain. It's probably going to be north of the Dead Sea. I didn't find that out till later, because Carl Morgan sent it to me.
Yeah.
He said, hey, have you seen what Thompson said? He follows the same logic that you do. Same analysis of the text. Kikar of the Jordan, same exact thing. Well, because it's there. I mean, I didn't dredge up something out of the clear blue. So everybody said, Dr. Collins discovered the city of Sodom. Yep, maybe. In the same way that if you gave me a map of California, and I looked on the map and it said Los Angeles. And I followed the directions and I drove into the Los Angeles area and I saw the sign, Los Angeles. Can you ascribe to me the discovery of Los Angeles if I use the map to get there? No. So maybe I was the only one that used the map. Well, since the 19th century, I used the map, but it's been there all along. The text has said it was there all along, and we went to the area and then eventually began to excavate and really do detailed work in that area. Everything that the Bible describes about Sodom and the cities of the plain, Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and the Zeboim, the little double cities, they're all there. In fact, there's more there than even those. So it's amazing that people would even begin to reject Tal Hammam as biblical Sodom, and they do so, by the way, only in one way. They can really only do it in one way, based on their chronology. But as we mentioned in an earlier episode, if you put Abraham past earlier than 1800 BC, all the cities mentioned in the text of the story of Abraham are non-operational. You lose all those cities.
So we're looking at all these possibilities, all these different issues, and once again, you've laid out the case why Tel el-Hammam fits what the Bible says about the city that was destroyed with fire and burning stone from heaven. Well, we've been looking at it, we've been excavating it, and we'll talk about it some more. Got a couple more questions for next week. Thanks for joining us today, and here we are, troweling down biblical archaeology for the 21st century.